Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Today, we are talking about love bombing. Love bombing. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. We've got our handy dandy notes and our crinkled paper. So here we go. Let's start with the definition of love bombing. I put love bombing is an intense whirlwind romance that quickly turns into emotional abuse and dependency once you're hooked. It basically is when you're moving way too fast. A lot of time our intuition tells us this, but the dopamine and the feel goods kind of just push that away. It pushes our intuition away, and it's like, well, these feelings feel so good and it feels so right. So all of our actual logical thinking or that side of our brain gets pushed away until further notice. I've fallen for love bombing a lot in the past because it feels really good. And I think a lot of us are victims to it. Sometimes when I was older, I was a victim to love bombing without even realizing it because one of my needs is constant communication. That's something that makes me feel really secure in a relationship. And that doesn't mean like obvious things like when they're busy or when they're at work, or I'm just a huge talker. Huge talker. I love to talk to my friends. I love to talk to my family. I love to text throughout the day. And so when I would have a boyfriend or a partner and they wouldn't have check ins throughout the day, I was like, what's happening? And I would kind of like have little moments of like, are they okay? Are they okay? And when I would meet these love bomber, narcissistic types that would prey on people that were victims to love bombing or loving the love bombees. I don't know another way to put that, phrase that better at the moment. Um, Talking constantly is something they love to do. So that on top of other things which we will talk about, the talking constantly is what would hook me in. I was like, well, they want to talk to me all the time, so they must really like me. No, they just like your attention. They don't love you. They don't love you. They want your attention. So that was something that I feel for. Another thing that they do is extravagant gifts or constant compliments. And I mean, you're crazy if you don't like that. But it's the time frame in which they do it. If they're doing it within the first couple days or the first couple weeks or even in the first couple months, red flag, red flag, red flag. They don't even know you well enough to be doing this stuff. And of course it feels nice when someone gives you a gift or calls you pretty or beautiful or compliments you. But something that really spikes my red flag or my intuition is when guys would give me compliments of like something specific, and I'm like, you don't even know me well enough. How would you know I like that? Or how would you know to call me this nickname? Or even if it's something generic, I'm like, how would you even know I like that? Um, and just little small things like that. There's not a certain time frame where that should be allowed, right? But there is a time frame where that shouldn't be allowed. And only you can determine that for yourself, but generally in the first few months, especially if there's not a label on what your relationship is. Another red flag, if you try to set boundaries with these people and they ignore it or pretend they weren't listening and go about what you set a boundary on anyway, that is a sign that this person could be a love bomber. For instance, it's hard to set a boundary. It's hard and it's typically awkward to go up to a person that you like or that you care about in any way and be like, hey, what you did in this moment made me really uncomfortable. And they could go about it one of two ways that could make them a love bomber. They could go, oh yeah, I acknowledgement of what happened and then say, yeah, I'll fix that, or no, that won't happen again. Then they do it again. Or they can just pretend they're not listening to you, ignore you completely, or just kind of push away that because they don't really care about your feelings. They care about the satisfaction that you give them, if that makes sense. That can be a red flag for many things, but typically love bombers do that too. Isolating you from friends or family. Okay, again, these are red flags for a lot of things, but we are talking about love bombers specifically. That's something that they will do, isolating you from the people that have loved and cared about you for years. Because 9 times out of 10, those people that actually know you and actually love you are going to be like, the hell is this guy about? What the hell is this love bomber about? No, and they want to prevent that healthy conversation from happening. They don't want to be called out on their shit. So, the cycle of love bombing. Let's talk about it. So, I have 3 steps happening. Number 1, idealization, right? The bombing itself. The love bombing itself. Intense affection or grand gestures, right? Typically, affection when it comes to compliments, pretty words, gifts, physical affection, whatever it may be, right? Number 2, the pullback. Intense pullback. Or devaluation. Can I speak? Once you're hooked, once they know that they have their claws in you, they pull back. Because it's not fun for them anymore. It's not fun. The game isn't fun if they know they're going to win. Or if they see the end in sight. Suddenly they're like, it's not fun anymore for me. They don't care about you. Once you're hooked, the affection stops and turns often to criticism, more times than not. And then that makes you feel crazy. You start second guessing yourself. You start saying, did I imagine everything? Did they never feel this way about me? Did I do something? Why are they acting this way? Sometimes they'll even say that you did something. So you start overthinking everything, like what changed? Did I start acting different? Maybe it is my problem. Manipulation in general. Number 3, the control. I'm out of breath. I'm getting so worked up. The abuser manipulates, controls, or leaves. This is the final step. Okay? Leaving the victim confused, wondering, stuck in the mud. Does the abuser care? No. Where the sweet person that they knew went. Oh, wondering where the sweet person that they knew went. So you're like, it's such an interesting part because you, if you're normal, actually caught feelings for this person, right? You're bombarded with all this loving affection and you catch feelings for this person because to you it was real. And then this person changes overnight. They were so sweet. They were maybe perfect in a sense. And then suddenly, they're the devil. That's right. My cat just came in here. They're the devil. And you're like, whoa! It's literally like a shock factor. But it's weird because you're like still searching and searching and searching for this person that you liked. Maybe loved. It's probably limerence, but you still liked, you still had real affection for. And it leaves you feeling all sorts of crazy, all sorts of manipulated, and then that person's just gone. And it's like you fell for this ghost that not only is dead, but maybe never existed. How to leave a love bomber, okay? How do we leave one? To leave a love bomber, it's even harder than leaving an average person because, again, you aren't leaving them. You are leaving the idea of them. You're leaving a version of what you thought they were, which really messes with your head. And it's like the ghost of this person, a person that never really existed, but they existed completely to you, which is really, really hard. It's very chemical. Our brains want to focus on the dopamine highs, but it's crucial that you focus on the reality and the lows of which they actually are. And it's easier said than done. And our brain purposefully, to protect ourselves, focuses on the highs because they don't want us to be depressed. But to move on from a person like this, you have to focus on how they left you and who they left you with. And that is the true them, especially in a love bombing case. I put, for the next relationship, give yourself a small rule or rules and don't tell your partner about it at first, which may sound sketchy. I am a big, let me put this disclaimer. I am a big believer in being honest and truthful 100%, especially with your partner. But when you're first getting into a relationship, especially with past trauma of a love bomber, it's good to have a boundary with yourself. And I would advise not to tell your partner this. Like, no soulmate talk for the first 2 to 3 months of talking, at least. But it doesn't have to be that boundary. And maybe I could have worded it better of a rule of, it's the same as a boundary. I said, whatever it is, this will protect you from love bombers too. Watch how a partner handles a small boundary. Okay, so I did put that. Or you saying no to plans because you have plans previously. I'm not saying specifically or purposefully say no to plans that this person wants to have with you, but if you have plans previously, watch how this person handles you having plans with other people or you having prior engagements. Really watch how you want your future partner to respond to you saying no to them and having other things going on in your life. Because what love bombers love to do is control and have them be the center of your universe. And to prevent you from falling for love bombers in the future, that's a good boundary to have. And also, watch how they talk to you when it comes to soulmate talk. And that's a very small boundary, is like the 2 to 3 months of soulmate talk. I personally believe you can't find your soulmate in 2 to 3 months. Maybe a year. Like, that's just me. But we're starting with small boundaries here. I'm a big flirt when it comes to dating. And that's really hard for me. Again, I'm a huge talker. So I have to be really careful with how I am attracted to men. Because I love when a man flirts. I love when a man's a sweet talker. But I have to be careful with what I'm attracted to when it comes to that, because that is a sign of love bombing sometimes. My thing isn't necessarily gifts or physical affection. But so be aware of what you respond to naturally or from your trauma or whatever, and just what you're attracted to. And then maybe what you've learned today or with your own research from love bombing, and make little boundaries from yourself and just be very aware. And I think that's the best gift you can give yourself. So hopefully you've learned a little something today. I hope this week you are kind to yourself. Thank you so much for stopping by and chatting with me. And as always, be kind.